Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This here is the Christian Trucker. And this is my story. Episode 2. I left you off with us living in Gulfport, Mississippi. Well, we ended up leaving Gulfport, Mississippi. We lived down there in a couple of different places. And we left Gulfport and moved back to our hometown in my grandparents' yard in a small mobile home. My grandparents ran a business, a lumber yard. That's a whole nother story, but we'll get into that a little bit later on when I start working there. But right now, while we were living in this trailer in my grandparents' front yard, a few pretty decent stories came around, and I'm going to try to cover some of those. Hope y'all enjoy this footage of the roads, because they were pretty coming down through there. That is Highway 71 coming southbound. It's a pretty nice drive up through there. Alright, so we left Gulfport and we went to my hometown, Central Mississippi. I'm not going to give you too much information as far as that's concerned. In a mobile home in my grandparents' yard. My dad worked a few different jobs while he was in that mobile home before he went to the lumber yard. But he started off, I think, at Heron Gas. He drove a gas truck. And then he went over to a termite place and he treated termites. And it was a pretty decent job. He made some pretty good money there. Nothing wrong with that line of work. Well, I was kind of a mischievous child, and I loved animals. Loved them. I mean, any kind of animal. Well, let me set the scene for you, and we'll kick this off. My grandparents had this huge wood frame house, and it was stained dark brown. They had a nice porch on it, and in front of the porch, they had some little miniature hedges that did around the flower beds. Well, my mom, like I said, she was an attractive redhead. She was out front in her layout chair because she believed in laying out in the sun and whatever. That's never been, a good thing to do. It cooks your skin and causes skin problems, which she had as she grew older. But she was laying out in her little chair, and my brother was over there playing with the G.I. Joes. He loved his G.I. Joes. Like I said, he's a little bit older than me at the time. Well, I guess I was going on 4 in that area, maybe 5. Well, I picked up something in the flower bed, and when Mama looked over, I had been playing with my fire truck. I had this huge red fire truck, and I loved this red fire truck. Well, Mama was upset because what I had picked up, are you ready for it? It was a baby cottonmouth snake. So she jumps over another lawn chair, grabs my fire truck, knocks the snake out of my hand, beats the snake to death with my fire truck. Whole time I'm crying because I had been petting the snake saying, "Mommy, look at my pet snake." So I knew it was a snake. But apparently I just didn't care or either see the danger. But I was petting a cottonmouth snake in my hand, and she beat it to death with my red fire truck. And I was mad. I was mad at my mama because my mama beat up my little friend and tore up my fire truck. And they wasn't the type people just because something gets tore up to go replace it, because I was upset. I had lost a fire truck and she beat up my friend. But yes, I was very much in love with all animals. I always did like them. I would bring home stray dogs, the whole 9 yards. I still do on occasion. The last one I brought home cost me $150. Yes. Brought it home. It was sick. Took it to the vet. Had parvo. Ended up having to get it put down. It was awful. Not long after that, my grandparents were a little more well off than we were. My granddad he liked the big diesel pickup trucks. 4-door diesel pickup trucks. That's what he liked. He had this brown one. Brown Ford. And it sounded awful when you crank it up. Blah, 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 you know, real loud. He took us over to, I think, Disney World or something. Because they had family that lived in Florida and Alabama. And we would go over there and visit them all the time. And they actually had some land over there because my grandma's mama, my great granny, passed away and left her a house. Well, I had this bucket of cars. You know, the big gallon ice cream buckets? I had a gallon ice cream buckets. And I knew each one of my little cars that I put in that bucket. That was my travel bucket. Because we were always traveling somewhere with them while we were living in their yard, you know. And, well, I had picked up one of my little cars and I threw it at the front seat and I hit my granddaddy in the head. And he done got mad and he rolled that window down and tossed my car out the window. Oh, and that was one of my favorite cars too. I guarantee you I didn't throw no more cars at him. Sure didn't. Throw my car out the window. I was upset about that too. Well, my mama, we had bought another little, I think it was a 70s Mustang that looked more like a Pinto. They were short, 2-door little cars. And they were not very pretty at that time in the late 70s. Well, we had got one of those somehow or another, and one day my mama was taking me and my brother, and we were leaving the lumber yard that my grandpa owned, and we were heading into town. And on the way into town, it was a 2-lane highway with very little shoulders. And everybody came up and down this road, right? Well, Mama had to drop her pants on the side of the road. Because we're going down the road and all of a sudden she starts hollering, whoa, something got me. So she slams it into the shoulder, jumps out of the car, drops her britches, and me and my brother just had to look away. Of course, we were laughing. We were boys. We thought it was hilarious. And it still is when I think about it. She swore me to silence, but you know, she's passed on, so she can haunt me if she wants. She gets back in the car, and come to find out, she had got a cricket, had crawled down in her britches, and was eating her rump up with them little prickly legs, and she didn't know what it was until she finally got it out of her pants. So, yeah, we're not sure how many people that we knew passed up and down that road while she was trying to get that cricket out of her pants. It was awful. Awful. Bless her heart. She was so embarrassed. And then my grandparents took me to the beach. Well, I had an eye for a pretty woman early in life. That was one of my downfalls for a long time. And my grandpa took us to the beach, and I saw this pretty gal. And I told Granddad, I said, look at that, Granddaddy, she pretty. And he looked and ended up, he made Granny mad. And Granny fussed at him for looking at that pretty woman. But it wasn't the first time I had done that to him. I had a bad habit of whistling or something like that at a gal, and he'd be around getting in trouble. It always seemed to be Granddad. I don't remember seeing him be Dad. I think Dad was working too much. He was always struggling to make us some money, which he didn't like hanging out with my grandparents very much. I don't think they ever liked him a whole lot. Or they still don't, because they're still alive, actually. So yeah, that was all fun. But as I went into school, I was in, I think that's a little bit, that might be in the next video. And let's talk about my grandparents on my dad's side real quick. My grandparents on my dad's side, my granny was a short lady. She could cook. Man, could she cook. Made the best beef stew that you've ever put in your mouth. They were sharecroppers. They never owned anything. They had land, but they would work the land and give part of their abundance to the people that owned the land. And they were awesome. My granny, I remember one Christmas, they couldn't afford nothing. I mean, they had a bunch of kids and a bunch of grandkids. So for me to get something for Christmas was a big deal. And this little plastic car that she bought me was probably about a foot long. And it was a little red race car. Red and yellow race car. Right today, it probably wouldn't cost $5 at the dollar store. It wasn't really well made. It wasn't metal. It was just plastic. But you know, that was the best little gift I ever got from my granny. Because I still remember it. And I don't remember everything about my childhood. I remember some of the high points. And I've talked to my family about some of them. And bless her heart. That was really big for me to get a prize from my granny. They moved over to Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and I would get to go and spend summers with them while they were over there, because they were both diabetic. My granny ended up getting on oxygen, and it was not a real great time, but I remember getting to go spend time. Turns out, now that I look back, I was there mainly to keep an eye on them and make sure that if they needed anything, that they could get help. And I didn't mind it, because I love spending time with my granny and granddaddy. And when Granny passed, my granddaddy moved back toward our hometown, and I got to spend time with him. And one of his favorite sayings when we were driving around is, when he'd see the red light, he always said, "You know what the yellow means, don't you? It means run like hell to beat the red." I always remember that, and I try not to do that now. I really do. And we'll finish up with this last little story. I broke my arm. One day, I was running out in front of my granny's house, and I fell. Well, me being the tough little butt I was, I looked up at my granny. I said, "I broke my arm." And she said, "No, you didn't." Well, I picked up my arm, and it just kind of flopped around there. My forearm. I broke the forearm. So she had to take me and get a cast put on. And I was so happy, because that cast, all the little old ladies at church and in town would take, "Oh, he got a broken arm," and I would get all the attention, and it was wonderful. Except my brother didn't like it very much, because I would take that cast and I would hit him with it. And if I'd get mad, I'd slam it on a table or anything like that. Well, it come time to get that cast removed. And sad to admit, I got angry one day at my brother, not far after getting that cast removed, and I slammed my arm down on the table. Well, when I did, guess what? That arm fractured again in the same place, and I had to get the cast back on. It did not feel good. Not in the least. And I still remember having that little cast on. I was a bad little dude. Always into something. Always. But that's gonna bring us up next week into elementary and beginning of school times, which starts a lot more interesting stories, if you ask me. But I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Sorry I had no music on this one. God bless, and we'll see you on the next trip.